What breakthrough do you think is going to have the greatest impact in the next 2 to 3 years on either Alzheimer's diagnostics or treatments?
Gosh. Marcy, there are so many breakthroughs coming at us. The innovation curve that we are on in this field is just, it's a hockey stick. I mean, it really is. We're just shooting up in terms of innovation. And it's hard to pick one thing. I would say, could I pick one from each category? Am I allowed to do that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So I think if we could get um, AI and big data and these digital health solutions adopted in clinical practice for early detection. And when I say adopted, that means you have to get all the pieces right, right? They've got to get into the Epic and Cerner EMRs. They have to be paid for. Um, but that just is first of all, you're collecting way more data and you're taking out variability from, say, raters and pencil and paper, and you can task shift to a lower cost resource, which is a really important thing in a health system. So I think if we could get those adopted, where everyone, I'd love to say 50 and over, but at least if we said 60 or 65 and over, everybody in the Medicare population had that baseline cognitive assessment, I think it would have a dramatic impact on care and stigma. Because right now, the only people who get a test is when you're worried about them. But if
Mhm.
everybody, I mean, there's no stigma to getting your blood pressure taken because everybody gets it, right? So I think if we did that, that would have a dramatic impact on the field, and just in general, um, the way we think about our brain health. In terms of blood tests, I think if we were able to get those moved into a primary care setting, in a way that they were standardized and you could compare results across blood tests. I would love to see that happen quickly. So, today, if you get an HbA1c taken, your numbers should be under 7, but you don't know which HbA1c assay was used or which test was used. They're all standardized. We've done that for PET scans with a measurement called scintilloids, but we're not there yet with blood tests. So I'd really love to get out of the argument of which blood test is better and get to the let's standardize these blood tests. So regardless of which blood test you get, you're able to look across them. I think that would be huge. And I think it'll allow it then to be more interpretable and be used in more frontline settings. And then the third thing, the thing that's going to blow the doors off is if these preclinical Alzheimer's trials hit. Unfortunately, A4 did not, which was the one that I ran. But I think we learned so much from that study that's have informed these next two studies that are rolling out right now. If those studies are positive and we can see 30% or more slowing in this disease, or potentially even stopping the onset of symptoms, that's going to be transformational. Because now, those other things have to happen right now. The early detection and the accurate diagnosis have to happen. So those are the three that I would be praying for.
Outstanding. Yeah, I think each one of those is remarkable and so important. And the one that really resonates to me the most, because they're all extremely valuable, but what you said with stigma is such a key point. When you think about when they say you need to get your colonoscopy at this age, you need to get your mammogram, you need to get your prostate, specific antigen testing done, and your blood pressure tests. People aren't always excited about each one of those, but it's just an understood thing that that's what you go and do, right? This is the age I go do this, and this is part of it.
Yeah,
But when somebody says, "I'm going to do cognitive assessment," people go, "Oh,"
yeah,
and or I don't want to do that. I really don't want to get my cognitive
and it's
assessment.
scary.
It's scary versus if this is just a standard of care. This is the age that you do it, and everybody has one, and it's your baseline data. That really, that I think that word you used is so key to help resonate the reason, looking at it from the patient side, why it's so important to hopefully advocate and move for that with insurance companies and things to fund that and move that forward as a benchmark, a healthcare benchmark at a specific age. Really critical.
Yeah, and right now, people don't talk with their doctors about their brain health,
Mm-mm.
even when they're nervous, even when they're concerned. I mean, it's one of the reasons, imagine, I say I do a lot with women. Imagine finding a lump in your breast and you tell your doctor, I'm worried about this. And the doctor says, let's give it a year and see what happens. What would you do? You
Yeah.
wouldn't wait a year, but that's what we do right now with brain health. So even when the patient gets up the guts to talk about their with their doctor and say, I'm concerned, a lot of times the doctor says, let's give it a year and see what happens. Because they're going to use the tincture of time for a diagnosis. But time is brain. And we know now that subjective cognitive complaints are actually a fairly good predictor for a future of mild cognitive impairment. So let's jump on that fast. Let's decrease the stigma. Let's not make people have to get the guts up to talk to their doctors about it. And let's start having brain health conversations, especially now that we know that over 40% of dementias can be prevented with lifestyle change. Let's talk about our brains. They're the most important parts of our body, and we never talk with our doctors about them.
Well, and I think another key thing is, Alzheimer's is so prevalent in women, right? And one of the key things that I keep hearing right now, menopausal and, women's health is all over the space as well. And the concept of brain fog that comes with menopause. My own doctor just asked me today, are you experiencing brain fog with your symptoms? But
It's wonderful.
did they dig any deeper?
Yay, doctor.
Did they dig any deeper into the answer? No. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
check for brain fog, or and so it's just kind of a given that this goes with aging with women's health, right? But I think we're missing that connectivity over, which is so many women who are being diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease, and are we connecting those hormone connections and identifying that brain fog might also be cognitive decline? I think sometimes
There's a
women
lot of
forget.
gaps.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are a lot of gaps in our knowledge around sex and gender differences. I think for a long time, people thought the difference between Alzheimer's in women and men was just because women lived longer. And obviously, age is the greatest risk factor. But now they're finding that even when they account for age, um, more women are impacted as patients, as caregivers, and even as paid caregivers, right? When you think of CNAs and things like that. But there's also some nuances here, and that is how the disease manifests itself. Do you remember there used to be a day when we thought that women had the same symptoms as men in heart attacks,
Mhm.
right? And women weren't dying more of heart attacks because they didn't have that radiating pain down their shoulder. They had symptoms that looked different. And it was a real press to explain to the whole public in a public health way what symptoms were in women that were different than men. And women aren't just little men. And so but now we're finding the same thing with cognition. There are differences in the way that the female brain is structured. There's difference in things like verbal acuity and how the disease manifests itself and things like that. We really haven't explored that enough to be able to do the same thing with our brains that we've done with our hearts. And I don't think it's too much to ask that we should do that.